In 1995, she had the privilege to be able to spend 1 year at Swami's feet and serve in different capacities. She's an educator, she's a musician. If the art of living, if the end of education is character, the art of living shines through her in all that she does and in all that she creates. I am honored and delighted to introduce my sister and friend, Crystal Harris.
Sai. The first thing I want to do is to thank you all for the invitation. It is such a pleasure to be with devotees on Swami's birthday and to share that love and to share his blessings. I am so delighted and so pleased to have been invited, and I thank you. Swami's birthday, the first thing I do when I am faced with these situations is I never think that, okay, well, I've been invited to speak, so I'm going to teach. I never think of it that way. I never think that I'm going to impart some knowledge to anyone. The thing that always impresses me about the way Swami works in my life is the fact that anything he brings to me is for me. It's something in it that I need to learn. There's something in it I need to see. And there's something in this that I need to know, that I need to learn. And so that's the way I approach things. And so when I look at things, when I look at review and research things for the topic, I always figure that's for me, that's something in it for me to learn. And so today is we're celebrating Swami's 94th birthday. So it says here, plant the seeds of love in your hearts. Let them grow into trees of service and shower sweet fruit of Ananda. Share the Ananda with all. That is the proper way to celebrate the birthday. So you can go to the next slide. So your theme today was love, faith, and hope. And I did a lot of research and a lot of thinking about these three words. So we're going to start with love. Okay. There are many definitions of love and many different understandings of what love is. I think that it is the word love is the most confusing word in the human language. It is the word that most human beings misunderstand. So some of the definitions of love would be parental love. That's love between a parent and a child. And that doesn't have to have much to do with biology. You know, a child can also be, a non-biological child. The same love. It could be sibling love, love between brother and sister, two brothers, two sisters. Also has nothing to do with biology. Okay? It could also be romantic love. Love between a husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, and whoever loves, whatever love that appears to you. but it's the romantic love. It can also be brotherly love. That's love for mankind. Everyone is my brother. There's a song that says, everyone is my brother when I say Sai. So brotherly love is holding up your brother, your fellow man. And then there's love for God. Okay? So the love for God, at least the God that we understand God to be, because that also has many connotations. As many human beings, I believe, that are on earth, there are different concepts of God's love. So the truth is, these are all components of one love. Love is just love. It just manifests in many different types of ways, many different levels of understanding. So it's a component of one love. Love is an outward, these different concepts of love are just outward appearances of that one love. They're manifestations of our idea of love. It manifests in many different ways. Or it's a sentimental or emotional feeling of love, but it's still one love. Love is just love. So the ultimate goal of the human being is to learn, to understand, and to know what love truly is. That is the goal of even being alive. It's all about love. It has nothing to do with anything except love. Love permeates everything. And it's our goal to learn what that means. Because we tend to, it's not attachment. And love is not entertainment. I mean, we're fans of all these stars and all these singers, all this entertainment, and we love them. But that's illusion. Love is not emotion. Love is not sentiment. And love is not infatuation. So what we should do when we're contemplating love, when we're thinking about the real true definition of love, we should consider that love is present in all. There is no, my minister used to say, there is no spot where God is not. And God is love. And so it is the form of the divine God present in all. It does not matter who that person is, how tall, how short, what race, what nationality. God is within every human being, every animal, every bird, everything is God. There is no spot where God is not. And so, that love is within all, everything, every rock, every tree, every plant, everything is permeated by divine love. Whomever you love, you are loving the divine. Everyone should also realize that love is present equally. Now, I've had this discussion before. Love is present equally in all beings. There's no situation where there's more love in one person than there is in another. And as humans, we tend to want to do that. We tend to want to say, and this is extreme, but we tend to want to say, there's this murderer. Well, apparently, he has less love of God, less divinity in him than there is in the saint. But it's not true. It's not true. The same love is equal in everyone. because God can only be God, and God is love. So there's no categorizing who contains the love of God. So, in other words, for an example, there's air, and everybody breathes the same air. You don't necessarily see the air, but you know it's there because you're breathing it. So no one person breathes more air. There are illnesses, of course, where air has to be manufactured or whatever, but everyone breathes the same air. That's the same divinity present for all. The sun shines in the morning. It shines on everybody. And the only difference is how much you accept, how much you understand. If I want to go indoors and close my shades, then I have not allowed God's light to shine on me. But that's on me. That's not because it's not available. That is my understanding of it, my ability to receive it and utilize it is on me. But there's equal spirit, equal God for everyone to use, to have. So God is love, and love is God. You are God, he says it all the time, and therefore you are love. And I've had interviews where I've heard Swami say, and ask the question, who is God? And typically, the answer with prayerful hands in front of you, you will say, well, you are God, Swami. But I've also heard Swami say, no, don't say Swami is God. You are God. And until we really understand what that means, we're going to continue in the world as mere human beings. Our divinity will remain just words. We have to take it to the next level. We are God, and what we have to do is hear that, really hear it, accept it, and then move in that direction. Love is one. There's only one love. There's just love. It's not this kind of love, that kind of love. It's one love. Failing to understand the true meaning of this love principle, man is undermining his life. And we see this especially in this day and age. If we don't understand and get the true meaning of love, we're just undermining our entire existence. And until we do, the world is just not going to be, it's going to constantly teeter on the brink of destruction. We have to understand. So there's no more love for this group of people, more love for that group of people. Love is one. So failing to understand that, man undermines his life. Everyone should realize that love is present equally in all beings. Love is one, but it is expressed in many ways. And experiences are varied, but the goal is one. You can have, and this is, I went around, this is my first time in Boulder, and I went around this morning to see some of it. Exquisite place. Exquisite. I've never seen anything so spiritual and so natural and so beautiful in my life. I am in awe, and I will be back. to suck up some more of that all. But it's a beautiful place. But my hostess mentioned that it's meditative. It causes your body and your mind to move into a direction. I'm a city slicker. I live in the city. All I see is concrete and tall buildings and a bunch of cars. So to move into this direction is meditative to me. It causes my mind to settle down and smell the roses, as they say. Where I feel so bad for people who don't get that opportunity because they never have the opportunity to see that there's something else out there. When you've been born and raised in a particular scene, that's all you know. And then you come to a place that has this kind of just meditation to me, this purity. So to carry on in this life, in this phenomenal world, love has to assume these manifold forms, all these different forms of love. But they're leading to, it's like being on a journey. And there might be 100 different ways to get to downtown Chicago. And all of them are good. They're all great ways. Some are long, some are more scenic, some just get there and get to the point. There are many different ways to get there, but the goal is downtown Chicago. The goal remains the same. Doesn't matter how you get there. Doesn't matter how long it takes. You're going to reach that goal. So to carry on this life in this phenomenal world, love has assumed these different manifold forms. The forms of love keep changing according to one's relationships. That mother, father, sister, brother, husband, wife. They keep changing according to the relationship, but pure love is unchanging. It's only one. It's still love, no matter what form it takes. Such pure love is limited today by man's self-interest. Now, this day and age, it's been going on throughout eternity. But specifically, only maybe because I have taken notice of it. But in this day and age, man's self-interest really is destroying the perception and the concept of love. Because, there's a love of money, there's a love of power, there's a love of prestige, there's a love of all this other stuff. And it's really undermining man's life, man's world. Continue. Now, the second component of your theme today was faith. And what about faith? Now, I heard the children when they gave their presentation this morning, which was beautiful, and they talked about faith. And when I thought about faith, because I have issues with that, I'll put it that way. I have issues with faith. So, what about faith? Faith is about believing. Do we believe? When Swami tells us that we are God, in my head, that goes in one ear and out the other. Because all the entities that have come here to teach us have always been, for me, they've been outside of myself. Very rarely do you find a teacher who will teach the truth. And the truth is, it's never outside of you. It is always within. And even in the language limits us. Because we say, my minister had a statement in church that she used to say, the Father and I are one. But even in that language, the Father and I, in the mind of human beings, that's a separation. So it's a challenge to understand what that means. The Father and I are one. I and the Father are one. I and the Father are one and the same. It's very challenging because the language has two entities. It's talking about the Father and I. So that becomes a challenge for humans to grasp, to understand. So do we, no, put it back. Do we understand what Swami has told us? Now he says, you are God. He says, where I am the full ocean, you are a droplet. But the water is the same. He's not the ocean and you're a drop of orange juice. The water is the same. No matter how big, no matter how small, it's the same. If you take a ball of clay and then you break a piece of that off, the components of the clay is still the same. The clay, the structure of the clay and the chemicals of the clay have not changed. It's just like I said about air. Air is the same for everybody and it's available the same for everybody. It misbehaves every once in a while and gets windy and then you can see it maybe. But you're not really seeing the air, you're seeing the results of dust in the air or whatever is blowing around. But the air is the same for everybody, all the time. So do we have faith in what Swami has told us? And I'm speaking from me personally. That's a challenge. It's a challenge to think of myself as God. Now I can talk the talk. I can recite it. I can memorize it. I can, people who speak about the Bible, they can quote the Bible from cover to cover. But do you really, really have faith in what is being taught? And I don't see it in the average human being because we've been taught this for a very long time. And on the surface, we believe it. But the minute the first problem arises and you get scared and you want to retreat, then all that rhetoric that you had going on in your head seems to disappear. He knows all the time who and what he is. And we have to constantly be reminded because we forget. And do you know that power of knowing, like the Bible says, know that you know that you know. That's that faith. If that kind of power, if we could assert that, then we wouldn't be dependent on politicians. We wouldn't be dependent on preachers, school teachers, because it's always there. It always has been, and it always will be. So Swami tells us that we are God, and that as God is love, then we are also love. Go to the next one, please. What we tend to want to do, and it may be in one of these, I may be saying the same thing, but what we tend to do is we tend to want to categorize love. We have to have a reason to love somebody. And if that reason doesn't present itself, well, we just withhold our love. And they have to fit a certain stature. They have to appear in a certain way in order to invoke our love. Our love always seems to have a reason. But divine love does not have to have a reason. You just love. I remember a woman in Puttaparthi told me one day, and she said, well, she wanted to join our group. And we all know the drama and the politics and all of that goes along with some of this stuff. She wanted to join our group, but our group was an American group. And I was the group leader. So didn't matter to me that she joined the group, but it's not my group. I have to get the consensus of the group. So I told her I would go back to the group and I would tell them what she wanted and see what they said. Well, the group said, well, we want to remain an American group. I went back to relay that message to her. And she went into this litany of things like she said, well, Crystal, when you say things to people, you should go deep, deep, deep within, and you should find the love. And I said, stop. I never have to go anywhere to find the love. The love is just always there. I love everybody and everything every day. If you feel that you have to start searching around in your soul to see if you love me, then we have a problem. I mentioned yesterday, we were talking, and there's a statement that people make, this is a fairly new thing, about tolerance. About tolerance. It's typically used with races. And, they make up these rules and these laws that say we should be racially tolerant. What is that? But that's nonsense. That is utter nonsense. And if you have to tolerate me, and at this time I use a little bit more colorful language, but if you're just tolerating me, then don't bother. You either love me or you don't. And if you don't, then that's on you. That's on you. But if you're going to walk around this world tolerating people and tolerating stuff, you're in trouble. Because that's on you. Because love is love. You don't love me, I don't know what to tell you. But if you're just tolerating me, what does that mean? Well, I don't love you, but I'll put up with you. What does that mean? Well, I don't care what happens to you, but the law says I have to tolerate you. What is that? It's nonsense. If you didn't know it before, let me tell you, it's nonsense. It has nothing to do with love, and it has nothing to do with divinity. It's human stuff. So the Bible says about faith. The Bible says faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. What does that mean? The things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Well, if you have evidence of something that's not seen, but you're hoping for it, you have faith that it's there. This air, that we're breathing right now comfortably. We have every faith that this air will not go away. You don't wake up in the morning and say, geez, I hope there's enough air out there. You could hope it's a little warmer than it was yesterday or a little cooler, but you have the faith every day that air is going to be there for you to breathe. It never dawns on you that there's not going to be enough air. It's the same thing as, say, driving. When you get up in the morning and you start your car, you don't actually go out into the world and say, God, I hope the cars on that side stay over there and don't run into me. You have every faith. You don't see it yet. You don't see the air, but you have faith that it's there and it's always going to be there. You have faith. It doesn't happen all the time. Accidents happen. But you have faith when you leave in the morning that the cars are going to go in proper directions and everything is going to be all right. And I'm going to get home by the end of the day safely. That's your faith. Faith is the connecting power into the spiritual realm. In other words, now we have had the privilege of seeing God in human form. We've had the honor, we've earned, I know people say you've earned that privilege, you've earned that right, you've earned that karma. You've earned the right to see Swami God in a human form. And everybody has not earned that right or have only earned so much. But that connecting power, that's faith. Because whether you saw him in a human form or not, you still knew he existed. You might not see him, you might not hear him, maybe you pray and you don't hear, but you still know God exists and he is there for you. So it's that connecting power to the spiritual realm which links us to God and makes God become that tangible reality. A tangible reality. In other words, when I think of tangible reality, I think I could pray for things or healing or different things, but that connecting power of faith is what makes it become tangible, makes it become reality, makes it appear in front of you. But it's faith. You have to have that faith in what you are praying for or what you believe in. You have to have that faith. And it's a very, very, very strong sense that you have to have. But if you just say something casually without any faith in what you're saying, then you shouldn't be surprised when it does not manifest. The faith is the key. The faith is the connecting power to that spiritual realm that makes what you're saying become tangible, or what you believe become tangible, become solid, become reality to the sense perceptions of people. But it's all has to do with faith. And the Bible says you don't need you need the faith the size of a mustard seed. Know how small that is? That's all you need in order to tell that mountain to move. Now, I personally don't know anybody who can make a mountain move except Swami. So we got a long way to go, don't we? I'd like to say, move mountain, because if it moved, I'm going to be running. I'm going to shock myself. But I would like to have that kind of faith. Jesus walked on water. Now that's the story, and I have faith in that story. I believe that story, that Jesus walked on water. And he told me that these things that I do, so shall you do. But my faith better not get out there trying to walk on water. I suppose if I had to, maybe if my back was against the wall, maybe I could. But just to say, go ahead, walk water, I don't have that faith. That's the kind of faith we need. Not just to walk water, that's not a big deal. When you say you're going to walk water, when you say you're going to walk on water, that's just showing off some spiritual skill. But if you had to walk water, that's where your faith needs to come in. Not for display. Continue. Faith is the basic ingredient to begin a real relationship with God. Faith is the beginning. Because you're not always going to see God. You're not always going to see these miracles, but you got to have faith that He is real. Faith is a complete trust and confidence in someone or something. Faith is a strong belief in God based on spiritual principle rather than any proof. Continue. There are lots of meanings of faith. Trust, belief, confidence. Many of us lack confidence. We have things put before us and it has to, and Swami will do it every time. The thing that you are least confident in will be put before you. It's a test. It's a teaching. Conviction. You must have conviction in the things that you believe. You rely on your beliefs, dependence, expectation, and to the third component of your theme today, hope. The ultimate goal of man is to truly know what love is. So what is hope? Hope is commonly used to mean a wish. Hope and a wish, kind of the same thing. You say, I hope I get that job. If you're expecting a baby, I hope it's a boy. I hope it's a girl. I hope it's not twins. I hope it doesn't rain tomorrow. These are wishes, but they're based on just a wish, not necessarily hope. The Bible defines hope as the confident expectation of what God has promised. Confidence being the ultimate word. We can, I hope it doesn't rain tomorrow, but we're not confident in that statement. It's just a wish. Because I got something to do and rain is going to interfere. It's the confident expectation of what God has promised. And what is the purpose for hope? Hope is a mechanism developed by the human brain or the mind to cope with things and situations that are unfavorable to our survival. You hope that things are going to be good in our future. You hope you know, there are statements like, you hold on to hope. That hope is what you have to hold on to. You don't see it in the future, you don't see it, but you hope that it's going to be all right. And the difference, there's just a slight difference between hope and faith. Faith is confidence or trust in a person or a thing on behalf, or a belief not based on any proof. Hope is just an optimistic attitude of mind based on expectation or desire. Faith says it is so now. It just is. I have all that faith. It is. This air is not going to go away. Boom. That's it. And hope says in the future it could happen. So spiritual hope, take it back 1 second. Spiritual hope is not only desiring, this is where they kind of intertwine. Spiritual hope is not only desiring something good for the future, but expecting it to happen. Continue. Everybody knows about cultural inclusion and expansion. We've been doing this for a little bit right now. But most people, when you talk about cultural inclusion and expansion, they only see it as the rules are going to change. The center activities might change. Something is going to change, and I'm not very comfortable with it. But cultural inclusion and expansion has everything to do with your theme of love, hope, and faith. If we're going to have faith in what Swami has said, he knows the outcome of all of this. He knows where this is going. And we in our human minds want to say, well, that's not exactly the way. We're used to doing it this way. We're used to doing it this way. This is the way we're happy. But Swami knows where we need to go. We only know where we've been. Swami knows where we need to go. So it has everything to do with love, faith, and hope. Expansion is life itself. It's the essence of love. Love is every urging and surging for this expression and enlargement. We're going to be better, be bigger when we expand. So the Bible says, and this is a quote from the Bible, and this will tie up the entire session. So now faith, hope, and love abide. These three. But remember this, the greatest of these is love. Go ahead to the next one. Now, everybody see that picture? Has anybody ever seen it? Nobody here in this gathering has ever seen that picture. So now I want to talk a little bit about my experiences with Sai Baba. And that picture will be part of it. When I first found out about Swami, there was a friend of mine, and I like to say her name when I'm speaking, because that to me shows my gratitude for her being the catalyst for me to come to Sai Baba. Her name was Harveen McGee. And Harveen and I sang in the choir together, and we always sat beside each other. And she had a book one day called Sai Baba Avatar. So what's a Sai Baba Avatar? What is that? I didn't know if it was a phrase. I didn't know if she was reading some book about some foreign language. I didn't know what is a Sai Baba Avatar. So she was reading this book, and I was reading over her shoulder. And the book was interesting. It was saying a lot of stuff. And she would turn the page before I was finished reading. Well, she saw my interest. So I asked her, "What are you reading?" And so in order to goad me into asking more questions, she said, "Oh, it's a book about the Avatar." So whoever heard of, I know you all knew what Avatar was. I had no clue. I had never even seen the word before. She said, "It's a book about the Avatar." So I said, "I'll play along. So what is an avatar?" And she said nonchalantly again, "Oh, he's the incarnation of God." Well, what the heck does that mean? So my church teaches that God is everywhere, evenly present, in all things, in all beings. I thought that's what maybe she was just talking about. Okay, well, I get that. I said, "So what do you mean incarnate?" The incarnation was the word that threw me. "So what do you mean incarnation of God?" And she said it again. "I mean, he's the incarnation of God." And I asked her again, "What do you mean?" And she turned to me as if I were slow, like she needed to do sign language or something. And she said, "I mean, God is in a body on earth right now." Well, that freaked me out. I'm still wanting to know, what are you talking about? Well, in my years of coming up, I was in a metaphysical church. I understood that that was a possibility. I didn't know it was in existence, but I understood it should be. In all this big, vast world, it should be. So she asked me if I wanted a book, because I asked her, "Where can I get a book?" And she said, "I'll bring you one." And she brought, the next couple of days, she brought me a book. She bought me that book, Sai Baba Avatar. So, "Okay, thank you very much." And she said, "Well, there's this little group, and we meet on the south side at Bessie Thomas's house," which was another choir member. "And I want to invite you." I'm thinking to myself, I ain't trying to join no group. I'm not trying to be bothered with a group. I just bring me the book and let's go. And she told me the day it was on, and it was on Friday at 7 o'clock, blah, blah, blah. So I took the book to work with me the next day and started reading it. And it was making me nervous, because I kept thinking, Crystal, you don't even have Jesus down pat. What are you doing? Now you're reading about some guru, and what are you doing? Figure Jesus out first and then do something else. So I closed the book. A voice came to me as clear as if somebody was in the room with me and I was alone. And the voice said, "There is no need to fear. There's only one." I thought about it. I said, "Well, I'm not prone to running off and shaving my head and playing a tambourine in the airport. I'm just not prone to doing very strange things. I'm pretty normal. Pretty normal. Don't get it twisted. I'm not normal. But I'm pretty normal." So I opened the book again, and you know how the pages of a picture has different paper from the rest of the writing. The picture opened up on Swami's face, but on the outline of Swami's face, I could see like a shadow of Jesus's face. It's my first real experience. And the voice came to me again, "There's no need to fear, there's only one." I read the book in about 2 days, and I showed up at their meeting the following Friday. They were all surprised to see me, because the lady told me, "Well, it usually takes a long time of prodding and pushing and begging to get people to come to the meeting, and you came within a week." I saw my first video, left my chest pumping. And when the video was over, because it was about 15 people, I was the newest person. And so when the video was over, everybody's head turned and looked at me to get my response. And the lady said, "Well, what did you think?" And the first thing I said was, how do I get there? Just, that's it. How do I get there? So the following year, it wasn't even the following year, it was a retreat. The retreat was held then in St. Louis. And Dr. Goldstein, which is right there in the back, that gentleman sitting down, not Dr. Goldstein, I'm sorry, who was it? Hislop, Dr. Hislop. Dr. Hislop was the keynote speaker for that retreat. Well, I don't know anything about the retreats. It's all strange and, but I was there. I went with my little group. And so everybody sat down, and when they introduced Dr. Hislop, I got up on one knee and clicked this picture. Common, simple, just a picture. I wanted a picture of Dr. Hislop, the speaker. So when I went in those days, you had to go and have your film developed. Anybody remember them days? So I took my film to Walgreens to have it developed. And as I was looking through my films, that picture was in the bunch. And I gasped so loudly that the lady asked me, was I okay? And I said, I'm fine, I'm fine. Now, that picture of that orange light, it really chokes me up when I look at it again. That picture of that orange light was not in the room, I promise you. It was not in the room when the picture was taken. It is actually in the negative. Like it was there in the room. It's in the negative, and I still have the negative. But that light was not in the room when I took the picture. I was so excited about the picture that the next conference that I went to, I think I must have had 400 copies made. Because I felt like if everybody feels the way I feel about this picture, everybody's going to be asking me, can I get a copy? Can I get a copy? So I was proactive. I had like 400 copies made, and everybody had one. Now I hear things like, one trip to India, a person said, I told her I was from Chicago. She said, really? She said, she was from Fiji. And she said, really, you're from Chicago? There's this picture. And it's this orange light, and it's Swami, and it's this and that. And a lady in Chicago took that picture. I said, really? So I have I've been to Buddha Party 6 times. In 6 trips, I've had 9 interviews. Swami has told me many things, and I'll just tell you this one. Because going to India for the first time, I call myself a chocolate drop from the south side of Chicago. And I had never been out of the country. I traveled a little, going to visit relatives, but never had been out of the country. So when I decided I'm going to India, first of all, my mother was like, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to be all right. This is okay. When I first went to India, they had told me so much about what India was lacking as far as comforts were concerned. Oh, there's no toilet paper. There's no this, there's no that. And I'm taking all this in. When I went to India the first time, I had 2 army duffel bags this tall. By the time I got to India, I didn't care if they spontaneously combusted. Because Swami played a game with me. He never let anybody in any of the airports help me with these bags. I was all dragging these 2 big dumb bags all over the place. And I always had to walk 2 miles to get to the next thing. And I'm dragging these big dumb bags. And when I got to Buddha Party, we took a cab. I took a cab. I was in an orange sweatsuit. It's got to be 110 degrees in the shade. I'm in an orange sweatsuit because I'm cold on the planes. So I put this sweatsuit on. So now I'm in this dusty cab. This cab ride from God knows where, with oxen in the street and bikes and cows and just everything. And taxis, every time the taxi moved, I'm jumping because I'm thinking he's going to hit something. And it's all fine. We get to Buddha Park and we pull in the gates. And I see people moving, walking. And the cab driver says, go, 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 darshan, go have darshan. But see, I'm from the south side of Chicago. I got everything I own on top of this taxi. I'm thinking, oh yeah, right. Yeah, you want me to walk off and leave all my stuff and then you just drive off with everything. Not that I cared at that point. I was so tired of looking at those bags. But I thought, oh, this is different. This is different for you. Do it. Just go. So I started following the people. I was too late to get into darshan, but this is how Swami worked with me. I'm there all by myself. I see no faces that I know nothing. I'm just there. And I verbalized it that way. I said, well, now at that point, everybody's been laughing at me. At that point, I was not accustomed to saying Swami. Swami to me was Satya Sai Baba Sir. And I said, well, Satya Sai Baba Sir, I'm here. That's all I can say. I'm here. I have no idea why I'm here. I have no idea what to do now that I'm here. I'm just here. And at that moment, Sai Baba stepped from the darshan area, walking over to the Punachandra, and that was my first real look at him. He stopped about halfway, looked right in my face, gave me a nice smile, and walked over. That was to let me know, I know you're here. I got it. I got you. And at that precise moment, when he got out of sight, I hear this voice, hello, sister. And I turn around, and it was a woman from the retreat. I had met her, and we had hung out and everything from the St. Louis retreat, L. True Sorensen. And neither of us knew we were coming. She didn't know I was coming. I didn't know she was coming. And he put her right in my presence. And I turned around and looked at her and said, L. True. And she said, Crystal. And we were together the entire time. So not only did he get me there, he supplied me with what I needed to be there, and what to figure out what to do, where to go, all of that was right there. The first interview I had, I'm going to be quick. The first interview was with her. And I had developed this cough. So I wanted to experience everything. I was going for Naga Sankirtan. I was just doing everything because I just wanted this real experience. But I had developed this cough. And you cough and people are trying to pray, they'll drag you out of there. So I stopped going to the early morning prayers in the Naga Sankirtan because I had this terrible cough. And so El True and I would just meet up at the cafeteria for breakfast or something later. This particular day I decided, I'm going to wait for El True today. I don't know where the thought came from. I hadn't been doing it. I said, I'm going to wait for El True today. So when she came around the corner from doing the Naga Sankirtan, she looked at me and she said, oh, you decided to wait for me today. I said, yeah, I don't know why. I just decided to wait. So we sit down in the line to pull the chit, and our line got number 1. And she turned around and gave me this funny look, and I was grinning. I'm grinning from ear to ear. We got number 1. So we get up and we go in darshan, and darshan happens, everything goes on, and Swami comes past her. Now she's brave, she's been going since the 70s. I wouldn't dare open my mouth. But she's been coming since the 70s, so she was kind of brave. And she said, "Interview Swami?" And he said, "How many?" And she said, 4, 2 ladies, 2 gents. He said, "Go." Well, if I could grin any bigger, it's just impossible. The whole ashram was like, "You were grinning so big." And so I went, and that was the first interview. Well, now, few days before that, I was at home packing to go on this trip. And I still was unsure of what I was doing. I didn't know if I was losing it. I didn't know what was going on. So I made this statement to Satya Sai Baba Sir. And I said, "If you are who you say you are, you will say these magic words." Well, how silly is that? Now, for the sake of my privacy, I always tell the story and use the word Rumpelstiltskin. Because that's a word that nobody, it was not going to come up in common, casual conversation, especially in India. It's not going to come up, right? So the magic word was, say, Rumpelstiltskin. So we get in the interview room, and the night before the interview, El True was supposed to leave, like, say, this was December 9th. I remember the day exactly. She was supposed to leave on the 12th so that she could be home with her husband and son for Christmas. And I was leaving on the 27th after Christmas. Now notice how I said that. The 27th after Christmas. So we're in the interview room now, and Swami is talking, and he's talking. I'm just grinning, and I'm just as happy. And he's talking about all the Christmas decorations that are going up, and how wonderful it's going to be, and how fun it's going to be, and blah, 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 blah. And he looked right in my face and said, "Rumpelstiltskin."
Oh my God.
And you could have mopped me up. Just simple. He didn't make a conversation like, "Oh, you know, when I was a lad, I read this book." None of that. He just looked right in my face and said, "Rumpelstiltskin," and kept talking. Well, you don't have to tell me anything else. So now he took El True and I and a couple other people to an inner interview room, and we were talking. And so he looks around, he looks like up in the air, and he says to El True, he says, "When are you leaving?" And you know, she has this high nasally pitched voice. "Well, Swami, my husband and my son, and he wants me home before Christmas, and so I have to leave. I'm leaving on the 12th. And he looked around, and he looked back around, and he said, "No." Now remember what I said, how I verbalized this. He said, "No, 27th after Christmas," which is exactly the way I verbalized it that night. He said, 27th after Christmas. "Okay, Swami." So we had to go out, and she had told me the only way Scott, her husband, would let her stay is if Swami said so. So we went out to find a phone to call Scott, and she was on the phone, and she was like waiting for him to, to yell or do something. And she said, "Scott, I had an interview today, and Swami told me to stay until the 27th after Christmas." And she held the phone away from her ear. And I could hear Scott say, "Well, if Swami said you stay, you stay." So she stayed and we both left together. I have many, 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 many more stories like that. but I wanted to make sure I share the ones that set me on the path. I want to thank you all for inviting me. I have had a friend of mine, he's a devotional speaker, and he always uses this when he closes. He says, "It's been a plum pleasing pleasure to be with you today." And I thank you. Sorry about that.